Okay, so yesterday I was finally able to get out on the field and complete the cast battle between two of my more expensive DC reels that are still in production. The $500 METANIUM DC and the near $600 ANTARES DC. And of course, that cast battle was the half-ounce lipless crankbait. Okay, now before we get to that casting footage and these results, let's go over my experiences with these reels so far. So with the METANIUM DC, I've did an on the water impressions video where I casted, a few different lures of different weights in various conditions, and it's actually already been through a cast battle against the mighty METANIUM MGL. And even though it lost that particular battle, it performed really, really well. Pretty much better than every other reel except for the METANIUM MGL. And pretty much this thing is probably one of the best all-around reels available on the market today. I don't know of any reel that's going to be able to stand up to this thing for just all-around performance. It can cast a huge range of different weighted lures from lightweight all the way to heavy. It can long bomb really long distances. The spool control is nearly unflappable on this thing. It's super smooth and powerful thanks to the micro module gears. And also, this thing is the lightest DC reel by far, coming in I believe at slightly under 7 ounces thanks to its magnesium frame and side plates, even though this thing is not considered a really small reel. And of course, that performance is due to the super advanced DC brake system, which is the IDC5. So yeah, in my book, this thing is worth every bit of $500 that it's on sale for now. Now the great thing about this is if you get this from a US retailer, you will get that Shimano warranty. Not that you would ever need it, but it's a good insurance policy to have just in case there is something wrong with your $500 reel. Now let's talk about this reel here, the 2016 ANTARES DC, which is Shimano's top of the line low profile baitcaster. And to import this right now, currently with the exchange rate, it's going to be close to 600 bucks. Now I took this out on the water one time and I was so disappointed in this thing as far as the casting ability that I pretty much put it back in this box, and it's been sitting there up until this battle. Now, it wasn't a bad caster, but since this is Shimano's top of the line DC reel, I guess my expectations were so high that I could, unless it just really cast at 100 yards each time with each lure, then I was going to be disappointed. And I did some research on this thing, and I've made some adjustments, and we'll see if this thing is going to start earning its super high price tag. Okay, now let's get to that field footage. Okay guys, so I'm out here doing the battle of the $500 DC reels, and first up we have the METANIUM DC. I have the inside line mode set to braid or PE, and the external dial set to 1, and I have the spool tension set to just minimize the side-to-side play, and of course we're doing the half-ounce lipless crankbait. So here we go. (176 feet 4 inches). (181 feet 7 inches). 186 feet 6 inches. $185 feet 11 inches. $177 feet 2 inches. Okay guys, so up next we have the ANTARES DC. Now inside the internal line mode setting, I actually have it to the extreme distance mode, or the X, and I was able to back the dial down to 1 click from maximum. So it was on maximum and then I backed it down 1 click. Spool tension set to just minimize the side-to-side play. And of course we have the lipless crank. So let's go. $179 feet 11 inches. $189 feet 8 inches. $187 feet 6 inches. $184 feet even. $179 feet 5 inches. Okay guys, so based on that casting footage and the numbers, who do you guys think won that test? Now the numbers were very similar to each other and it was pretty close, but of course there can only be one winner on this channel for each battle. And the winner is the ANTARES DC. Now the ANTARES DC is finally starting to earn its money that I paid for it. Now the METANIUM DC did an excellent 181.6 feet average, but the ANTARES DC with its consistency averaged 184.2 feet, so a little bit under a 3-foot victory average for the ANTARES DC. And let me explain why I think that was. Now I think there's really two main reasons why I think the ANTARES DC squeaked out the win. The first reason was the brake system. Now the ANTARES DC has the most adjustable, most advanced DC brake system on the planet. It's called the 4x8 DC system. So what it is internally you have 4 modes. It's got 3 line modes just like the METANIUM and the Scorpion. You can see FL for fluorocarbon, P for braid, NM for monofilament, and then you have this mode right here, the X mode, which is for extreme distance casting, and it offers minimal braking. Now my previous experience with X mode was pretty awful. I kept backlashing, overrunning. There was simply not enough brake force to cast that square bill that I was casting in X mode. Now one thing that I need to clarify with you guys is previously in the video for the ANTARES DC, I told you guys that since this has no spool tension adjustment on the side, that you had to twist this screw to adjust the spool tension. And actually that's not true. If you take a look around that screw, there's this little knurled ring that you turn to adjust the spool tension. Now it takes a lot of effort to turn it, but you can turn it and tighten and loosen it up. Now coming from the factory, the spool tension was set fairly loose. I mean, the wobble, there was a slight bit of wobble, and I think that contributed to the fact that I could not use the extreme distance mode. So what I did was I tightened it up a little bit to just eliminate that side to side movement, and that tamed things enough so where I could use the X mode and go to the second to the highest setting. So that produced the longest cast with this particular lure. Now the great thing about the ANTARES DC is, as you can see, there's a lot more adjustment left. Well, I think I pretty much had everything maxed out with these other reels. I had it on the lowest line, the lowest brake setting. Had spool tension pretty loose, but there's a lot more to be had with the ANTARES DC. And apparently this lure is not even heavy enough to really test the limits of the extreme distance mode. And another thing is that the ANTARES DC has a huge 37mm spool versus the more standard size 34mm spool of the METANIUM. I don't know if this camera will let you pick up on the massive size difference of the spool. And also, this thing is the only current hybrid Shimano reel. Now what I mean by hybrid is that it's the only reel that has the DC brakes along with that much coveted MGL spool that allows for the faster startup times. And when casting that lure, I could tell it was pretty effortless for this ANTARES, like it wasn't even trying, and there was a lot more in it. And also, one thing I need to bring up is the bearings. I think the bearings on this ANTARES DC are probably a rating above even the METANIUM. Now, if you've seen in previous bearing test videos, Shimano's stock SARB bearings or METANIUM, if I even up the reel seats, you'll see that the ANTARES DC, to accommodate that big spool, is so much taller. And while it's not a heavy reel by any means, especially for its size, the weight is kind of spread out all over evenly over the reel. That's the best way I can describe it. It's not centralized. So compared to something like this Scorpion DC, where if I can just get this thing out. Okay, so compared to the Scorpion DCs, you can see these reels weigh within, I think, a few tenths of an ounce of each other, but you can see the Scorpion is significantly smaller, so the weight is more centralized, so I could just really whip this thing really hard, and I guess get more rod speed, or at least it seems, versus the ANTARES DC. But as you can see, it really didn't matter, because with the better brakes, the better spool, and the bigger spool, and potentially the better bearings, the ANTARES DC beat them all. Now the difference between all four of these reels was less than, let me see here, if I can do my math, about 7 feet. And interesting enough, the Corrado DC managed the longest cast out of all of them at 192 and something feet. So the cheapest reel did the longest cast, but overall the consistency went to the ANTARES DC. So now that we've established which of these DC reels casted the lipless crankbait the farthest, this means that a total of 22 reels have completed the lipless crankbait test, and I'm going to release a video going over the results of all 22 reels sometime in the next couple of days. Okay guys, be on the lookout for that, and thanks a lot.